this is a nice act to follow, I'll tell you. Martin and I have been, we've been making appearances together for the last several years here in Los Angeles. And what I do is describe Martin Amis as the complete literary star at the top of his game, and then I might mention that I've appeared as a category on Jeopardy! Earlier this year, when I began writing a book I'm calling Blue Dreams, which incidentally is taken from the name of a marijuana, although the marijuana reference earlier had nothing to do with me, I thought it might turn out to be my last novel. Number 46 to add to the stack. I was finally getting tired. Then the first chapter of the book sold to the Atlantic as a short story, and not long after, a letter arrived from the National Book Foundation awarding me this year's medal for my work, all of it. And I thought, with this kind of boost coming out of nowhere, how could I be working on my last book? So I've been writing fiction for 60 years. We didn't make many bestseller lists until the mid-1980s. I didn't worry about it. My books aren't exactly plot-driven. They're about people with guns in dire situations. Once I became known, I thought reviewers were going a bit overboard, saying that the subtext of my work is the systematic exposure of artistic pretension, or that my writing was an indictment of civilization and its byproducts. But the review I think of as the most stimulating, if not a realistic appraisal of my work, comes from New Musical Express in London, who calls me the poet laureate of wild assholes with revolvers. You hope in vain to see a quote like that on the back cover of the next. So once I began selling my work, the first one to Argosy in 1951, it took 10 years to come up with a natural style that I liked. I'd get out of bed at 5 a.m. and write until 7, 5 days a week before getting ready for my job at an ad agency. My only rule at 5 in the morning, I had to start writing, get right into the story before I could put the water on for coffee. Most of the fiction I wrote at daybreak sold to pulp magazines. Dime Western, Zane Grey Western, for 2 cents a word. 310 to Yuma in 1953, a 4,500-word Western sold for $90. 2 years later, a studio paid $4,000 to make a movie starring Glenn Ford and Van Heflin. And I liked it a lot, but Walter Winchell called the picture 3 hours and 10 minutes past high noon. In '69, I wrote my first book that wasn't a Western, called The Big Bounce. My agent in Hollywood at the time, H.N. Swanson, read it, called and said, "Kiddo, I'm going to make you rich." Swanee saw The Big Bounce as a quick movie sale, sent it out to producers over the next few months, and got 84 rejections. I did top that once. I got 105 rejections on another story that Alfred Hitchcock bought, but then died on me. But the book did sell, and twice was adapted for the screen. Now, I can't believe anyone in this room saw either version of the picture or remembers it. if you did, because I saw it here in New York, and I came in a little bit late. I was about 20 minutes, it was about 20 minutes into the picture, and I sat down. Right after that, the woman in front of me said to her husband, "This is the worst picture I ever saw." And the three of us got up and left. And I've never seen the whole movie. I wrote screenplays in the 70s thinking I'd be good at it, but wore myself out rewriting scripts for producers who nearly always believed the plot needed more backstory. In the winter of '72, Swanee called to ask if I'd read The Friends of Eddie Coyle by George V. Higgins. I told him I hadn't heard of it, and Swanee said, "This is your kind of book. This is your kind of stuff, kiddo. Run out and get it before you write another word." I got the book and read the opening sentence in the store. Jackie Brown, at 26, with no expression on his face, said that he could get some guns. I finished the book at home in one sitting and felt, it was like 180 pages, and felt like I'd been set free. Higgins moved his story almost entirely with dialogue, the conversations of cops and criminals, their voices establishing the style of his writing. I stopped trying to tell what was going on in my books and began to show it from the points of view and the voices of the characters, bad guys and good ones, the way George Higgins used his ear to tell what his people were up to. 5 years after Eddie Coyle came out, a New York Times review of one of my books said that I often cannot resist a set piece, a lowbrow aria with a crazy kind of scatological poetry in the manner of George V. Higgins. And that's pretty much how I learned to write in a style I lifted from Higgins, but changed enough until it became my own sound. I want to thank the National Book Foundation for my award and recognize Executive Director Harold Augenbraum and his people for keeping this event on track despite Sandy trying to stop us. They deserve our thanks and praise. I have to tell you, I'm energized by this honor. The only thing I've ever wanted to do in my life is have a good time writing stories. This award tells me I'm still at it. Thank you.